Good morning, and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church here in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests here in person and virtually. My name is James Coombs, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. Reverend Teresa is taking July off for leave and vacation, and today's service is led by Michael Esselin, with music by guest keyboardist Katie Eames, Cesario Perez, and Dr. Zenaida Robles. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. And thank you for joining us as we continue to prioritize connection over perfection in this hybrid service, which is streamed on YouTube and which will be recorded for future viewing. Seating is available in the back for those of you who would like to make sure that you don't appear in the recording. And based on guidance from our COVID safety team, masks are required inside and optional outside. You'll find information on our website about the many ways to connect with our church community throughout the week, both in person and virtually. A couple of announcements. Singers are needed for Music Sunday. Please see Dr. Robles after today's service for more information. Oh, yes? Okay, good. Like, what did I do? Co-hosting Building Bridges Dinner is going to be coming up. We are co-hosting the Building Bridges Dinner in conjunction with the San Gabriel Mosque next Sunday, the 17th, outside on the Labyrinth. Please see this morning's email to RSVPs for this interfaith dinner and conversation. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, Pastries with Pagans will be meeting in room 21, and all are welcome. And also at 1 o'clock, the Shakespeare's Club will be meeting via Zoom. Information about that is also available in this morning's email that came out. And as mentioned, more details can be found in the email from this morning and in the church announcements. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
Good morning. I don't know if all of you know who I am, and my bio got missed in the intro, but I'm Michael Esselin, and I'm a guest here. I think this is maybe the 8th time or so that I've been invited here, and I'm the Dr. John Glaspie Chaplain in Oncology Care at the Simsman UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology. As a call to worship this morning, I'd like to offer this by Mark Nepo, and it's called Behind the Thunder. I keep looking for one more teacher, only to find that fish learn from water and birds learn from sky. If you want to learn about the sea, it helps to be at sea. If you want to learn about compassion, it helps to be in love. If you want to learn about healing, it helps to know of suffering. The strong live in the storm without worshiping the storm. Should have had a rehearsal. It's time to light our chalice, which is a ritual we share with you congregations all over the world. I'd like to offer these words. We come together to light the chalice of our community, both in person and virtually, as a way of reminding ourselves of our common light, the spark within, the light we carry and the light we give away. May we fan the flame of spirit within ourselves and each other with encouragement, with compassion, with a willingness to be a witness, knowing that it is enough. It is more than enough. It is what we came for.
It's number 1046 in your teal hymnal or on the screens above. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing "Shall We Gather at the River." Shall we gather at the river where bright angel feet have trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. On the margin of the river, washing up its silver tray, grace will walk and worship ever all the happy golden day. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Ere we reach the shining river, lay we every burden down. Grace our spirits will deliver and provide a robe and crown. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river. Soon our pilgrimage will cease. Soon our happy hearts will quiver with the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river,
to the ChangeWorks Foundation. Please give generously through our website, text to give, or the QR code on the box found at the exit. If you wish to make a payment towards your pledge, please make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the box outside. Here to tell us about the ChangeWorks Foundation is Ethan Coombs.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for selecting the ChangeWorks Foundation for today's Share the Plate, and also last week's too. I don't know if you were here last week, but my name is Ethan Coombs, and I serve on the board of the ChangeWorks Foundation for the past 4 years. The ChangeWorks Foundation started in 2014 when 5 7th grade students in Burbank learned that a friend was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, even rarer in children, called cholangiocarcinoma. His name was Christopher Wilkie. He became ill in December 2013, and we lost him in March of 2014. These 5 friends, including my sister, learned that the financial costs associated with childhood cancer can be devastating. Losing a child to cancer is unimaginable, and families will do whatever they can for their child. Some families we've met have talked about their financial difficulties that they have experienced during these terrible times, including their loss of job, income, and even the threat of where they live. It's just not fair. Mia and her friends raised about $1,500 for the family that winter, but learned that they did so much more. After we lost Chris, his grandmother told Mia and her friends that they actually raised closer to $15,000, which helped keep the family housing stable and allowed them to focus on their son. His grandmother also asked if they would continue to do this work for other families who were in the same difficult situation, and that's how the ChangeWorks Foundation started. About 3 years ago, I was involved in helping a family at my school apply for a grant. The family who lives in Panorama City had been fighting to help their daughter, who was in 2nd grade, battle a serious brain tumor. The family learned that they had been accepted to St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee for a surgery in less than a week. The family bought a last-minute plane ticket and made hotel reservations without hesitation, and cost them about $4,500. The foundation was able to provide a grant of $5,000 to help offset their expenses and loss of income. We helped a similar family here in Pasadena just over 2 years ago, sorry. And our grants have helped families across California on what's most important at the moment. I'm here today to ask for your help in addition to your generous donations. The foundation relies on our communities to help identify families who can use our help. There's an application which is available online at our website at www.changeworksfoundation.org. We have an administrator who reviews the applications, then provides the non-identifying information to our board, which makes a grant decision. Grants are typically between $3,000 and $5,000 and are based on the out-of-pocket expenses that a family has experienced. To date, we've given away about $40,000. I forgot to mention something. We are a nonprofit organization, and our bylaws require that everyone on the board who makes these decisions is under the age of 18. Like how I mentioned before, I just aged out about a month ago, so yep. So we have 3 adults that are required by California law, but all decisions and fundraising activities are handled by the all-youth board. And I aged out, but there are new board members who are filling in right behind me. And thank you for your support today in helping continue to identify and support kids and families in need. Thank you again.
The Old Testament story of Susanna and the elders is talking about an older man's admitting, well, in this aria from Handel's oratorio of the name Susanna, is an older man's admitting to himself that he has some very inappropriate feelings. But he's doing it in Handel's beautiful music. Tyrannic love, I feel thy cruel dart, protects me from the burning smart. What, seated with the elders of the land, to guide stern justice, unrelenting hand, shall I submit to feel the raging fire? Youth pleads a warrant for his hot desires. But when the blood should scarce attempt to flow, I feel the purple torrent's fizzly glow. Love conquers all. Alas, I find it so. Bear me resistless down the rapid tide. No faithful pilot shall my vessel guide. No friendly star her gentle light supplies. But pitchy clouds involve the darkened skies. The tempest howls, the foaming surges roll, while I, unhappy, quit the safer shore. Sweetest of thy lovely race, unveil thy matchless charms. Let me adore that angel face and die within those arms. My ceaseless pangs thy bosom move to grant grant the just returns of love. My ceaseless pangs thy bosom move, to grant the just returns of love.
That was beautiful, thank you. As a reading this morning, I would like to share this by Brad Aaron Maudlin, and it's called What You Missed That Day You Were Absent from 4th Grade. Mrs. Nelson explained how to stand still and listen to the wind, how to find meaning in pumping gas, how peeling potatoes can be a form of prayer. She took questions on how not to feel lost in the dark. After lunch, she distributed worksheets that covered ways to remember your grandfather's voice. Then the class discussed falling asleep without feeling you had forgotten to do something else, something important, and how to believe the house you wake up in is your home. This prompted Mrs. Nelson to draw a chalkboard diagram detailing how to chant the Psalms during cigarette breaks, and how to squirm for sound when your thoughts are all you hear. Also, that you have enough. The English lesson was that I am is a complete sentence. And just before the afternoon bell, she made the math equation look easy, the one that proves that hundreds of questions and feeling cold and all the nights spent looking for whatever it was you lost and one person add up to something.
The thrushes sing as the sun is going, and the finches whistle in ones and pairs. And as it gets dark, loud nightingales in bushes pipe as they can when April wears, as if all time were theirs. These are brand new birds of 12 months growing, which a year ago less than twain. No finches were, nor nightingales, nor thrushes, but only particles of grain and earth and air and rain.
As we enter into time of silent reflection and contemplation, I invite you to close your eyes if you feel so comfortable. Get comfortable in your seats. Maybe let's take a few nice deep breaths together. Just following the empty breath. As we breathe, we let go of the concerns and thoughts of the day, of the week behind us or the week ahead of us, the year behind us or the year ahead of us. And we allow ourselves to breathe into this moment now, in stillness. We breathe into the place beneath such concerns, where we can remember that as we all sit here together in silence, we are, at the very center of our being, of the same essence, cut from the same cloth, yearning for the same peace, the same joy, carrying the same sorrows. sitting together in silence. I call this talk Spiritual Report Cards. And I have been running away from failure ever since I was first aware there was such a thing as a report card. I couldn't imagine anything worse than getting an F. The humiliation, the disgrace. So I made sure that I never did. I lived through my school years actually believing that my grade point average and my self-worth were one and the same thing. Even though ultimately a 4.0 GPA was flimsy proof indeed of any kind of self-worth, but still a string of A's did offer some momentary consolation and camouflage, if you will, for my true failure as a boy, as a straight boy doing straight boy things, not like the other boys at all. I wonder how many of us still live our lives as if there will be a report card at the end, as if we will somehow be judged on the goodness of our lives, the meaning we made of it, how many things we acquired, how much money we made, what kind of a parent were we? Or conversely, living with the bone-chilling fear that I must have been absent that day, unaware that this particular moral challenge would be on the final exam, and I blew it. Sharon is facing the imminent end of her life, ovarian cancer, and she wrestles with that very fear. Michael, I think I'm a good person and I've lived a pretty decent life, but I've made my mistakes, believe me, big ones, and I have my regrets. What if I don't get into heaven? As if she will be judged on her resume and not on, say, the love that's in her heart or what she learned along the way, if she's even to be judged at all. My grandmother, Barbara, my dad's mom, was one tough cookie. So tough, in fact, that her standard reply to the greeting, "How are you?" was, "I'm just as mean as usual." I don't believe in failure, she would say. There's no such thing because you can always learn something. It's a pretty commonly held perception, particularly among those given to positive thinking as a way of navigating through life, and certainly within the mythos of American notions of success. But what I found lacking in my grandmother's declaration was compassion. If I were brokenhearted that I didn't get the thing I wanted more than anything else, devastated really after working so hard to get it, I really didn't want to hear, "Well, I'm not going to feel sorry for you because you're going to learn something through this." That wasn't helpful at all in the moment, even if it proved to be true in time. Authentic compassion, after all, only means to be with suffering, to be with it, not to fix it or correct it or advise it or compare it. It's not a small or easy thing. Authentic compassion for ourselves and for one another might be the one true great healer, and yet it's not an attribute I've ever seen on any report card or any measuring stick for success. At the same time, I resonate deeply with the writings of Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. In the end, everything can be taken from a man, but this one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. So maybe it is up to us to cast the final verdict, to cast that final grade, to call it a success or failure. But I find myself struggling with that all too human urge to cast any verdict at all, to see life through this dualistic lens of success and failure, win or lose. What if it's not so simple as that? What if it's not so clear-cut as that? In the early 90s, I had a design business, and there was a big recession that hit LA. My business fell off to zero, and I needed to do something quick. As a stopgap survival strategy, I took the CBEST test, I got an emergency teaching credential, and I was hired to be a substitute school teacher for Inglewood Unified School District. This was a few weeks after the Rodney King uprisings in LA. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but soon enough I discovered I did not have the constitution to face those schools every day. I just couldn't do it. So on my off days, I volunteered at Project Angel Food, delivering home-cooked meals to homebound people with AIDS. These were the peak years of the AIDS crisis, and I also got involved with a fledgling volunteer AIDS hospice group called Project Nightlight. But at the time, I felt like an abject failure, the loser of the world. Nobody could convince me otherwise. I assiduously avoided friends who might call me and dare to ask the unthinkable question, so what are you doing these days? What's more, I felt like a spiritual failure, that somehow God had dispensed all the components necessary to live a successful life to everyone else except me. Firmly attached to that idea. And yet now, when I look back on that point in time 30 years ago, I see it as the pivot point that made this part of my life possible, that held the door open to this career of chaplaincy that I love so much, that gives my life meaning, that makes the whole mess make sense. So am I to look back on that point in time now, 30 years ago, and call it success, even a blessing, hurting so badly that I wanted to die? The older I get, I find the less patience I have for that either-or kind of thinking. In the world of cancer, the stakes are much higher when it comes to our perceptions of success and failure. I've walked beside countless folks, many of whom are facing the end of life. And if this life is going to be over because of this diagnosis, then that must mean that Western medicine failed, right? My doctor failed. This drug trial failed. My vegan diet failed. My acupuncturist failed. My positive affirmations failed. My prayers failed. God failed me. I failed God. These experiences, these deep experiences of failure, are not just the province of patients. Over the years of walking beside dozens of folks left behind, the bereaved, they almost universally wrestle with similar experiences of failure. If I just hadn't spent so much time at work, I could have taken better care of her. She might still be here. If it weren't for my depression and my anxiety, I know I caused her so much distress that's why the cancer came back. It's my fault. Why didn't I insist that he go to the doctor sooner? If only I had forced the issue and we'd gone to get a second opinion. That whole need to cast any kind of verdict at all, I find very seldom is there room for the verdict to be not guilty. Deanna is living with an aggressive colon cancer, and she's also deeply rooted in this sort of New Age philosophy that would suggest she can create her life just as she envisions it through positive attitude and prayer and affirmation. And up until now, that philosophy has served her rather well. She's found herself a wonderful mate. She continues to enjoy thriving success in her real estate business. She's a planner and a goal setter. She likes goals with nice, measurable outcomes, so each win only solidifies and deepens her faith that much more. How could it be otherwise? But now the tables have turned and her disease has progressed. The outlook is not good. That whole paradigm of setting goals becomes far more challenging, even a little murky. If cure is medically off the table, what's the most she can hope for? More time, living with chronic cancer. What's more, she feels like a spiritual failure. Michael, I guess I just wasn't positive enough. I guess I didn't believe hard enough. My prayers weren't good enough. It's my fault. Over 20 years ago, I was covering an overnight on-call shift at the UCLA hospital. It was late on a Sunday night, and I was paged to come up to the ICU. The elderly matriarch of a large African-American family was very near death, and the family wanted some support and a prayer. I offered them that, and then I left. A few hours later, the pager went off again. I was summoned back to the unit because the woman had passed. The family now wanted company while they waited for their pastor to arrive. Once he arrived, he took one look at the scene and said, "It looks like you all didn't pray hard enough." As if this loving family had failed their mother. As if death itself is a failure. And if that's true, all of us are guaranteed an F on our final report card. Spiritual success, spiritual failure, these are tricky concepts, again, with this either-or thinking. Over the years, I've walked beside countless folks, many with deep faith, many with no faith at all, but with a common longing, a yearning for strength. I wish I believed more. I wish I had stronger faith. I wish I knew this was going to be better. As if strong faith equates to spiritual success. And when we tease apart what they really mean by that, by strong faith, it usually means certainty. I want to know that I'm going to be okay. I want to know that this drug trial is going to work. I want to know that I have the best oncologist on the West Coast. The German-American theologian Paul Tillich says the opposite of faith isn't doubt, it's certainty. If I'm certain I'm not really walking in faith anymore, am I? Faith, in my view, might better be described as a willingness to step off into the unknown with my doubts and fears in tow and continuing to walk anyway, with my heart and eyes open, with curiosity, with humility, with patience, with love, with compassion, even for my experience of failure. With Deanna, who loved to set nice, measurable goals for herself, we looked at what another kind of goal might be, a goal with a not-so-measurable outcome. What about a goal of coming to peace with uncertainty, with doubt, with mess, with powerlessness, offering herself the grace to be a human being? In these years of this pandemic and all of these extreme measures we have had to endure, there are many of us, myself included, who have sought to sort of redefine, reframe our ideas about spiritual success and failure because the times seem to demand it. And there are those eternally optimistic spiritual folks who have likened this to a golden opportunity, a chance to hit the reset button for life on planet Earth, to refine and distill all the extraneous from that which is essential, a cleansing. And they embrace this. Not me. I have grieved deeply. I never had come to realize how much of a social animal I am, how much of an extrovert I am, that for me, real human contact, connection is like oxygen itself, that kind of connectedness is the stuff of life. It may even come close to the meaning of life itself. So much so that for me, sitting in a darkened, sold-out theater, knee to knee, with strangers, being moved to tears or laughter by the same humanity on display on a stage is like a religious rite. Just as it is to gather with my dancing chums on Saturday afternoon in the same dance class in front of the same mirror, dancing to the same music, and afterward getting to partake in Holy Communion, complaining about everything that hurts. just as it is to travel to some faraway place and get lost in some alleyway with a bunch of locals, many of whom may never have even heard of Los Angeles. Just as it is to hug someone in trouble, a friend, a loved one, a patient, a stranger. So much so that when it seemed for many months that these experiences were off the table for the indefinite future, maybe even for the rest of my life, a part of me, I'm embarrassed to say, wondered whether life was worth it. Not like those spiritually optimistic folks at all. I had come face to face with the limitations of my resilience and adaptability. And so in those moments, I would call myself a spiritual failure, and I would give myself an F. By contrast, Bernadette is 31 years old. She has the most astonishing capacity for curiosity and acceptance and humor. She seems to live in the place of, gee, I wonder what that would be like. So much so that when she began chemotherapy and her beautiful red hair began to fall out, we had that conversation I often have mostly with women, how they're going to face this challenge. Some will choose to shave their heads preemptively as a self-empowering gesture, and some might choose to make a lighthearted ritual out of it, dye their hair pink and have friends over and shave their heads for them. No, she said, I think it'd be really interesting just to see what it'd be like to have your hair fall out. And once she had completed her treatment and that year had come to a close, she was reflecting on the year that had passed. And she said, you know, Michael, I guess I'd have to say all in all, it was a pretty good year. Bernadette, in a year that includes a cancer diagnosis, chemotherapy, radical double mastectomy, radiation, if that doesn't make for a bad year, what on earth would? Oh, I don't know, she said, maybe losing my sense of humor. A spirit like that can't be broken. I walked beside Grace the last 6 years of her life, ovarian cancer. She had lived this life of dizzying twists and turns, both personally and professionally, zigzagging her way across the country. I asked her once that if there were a young person in your life who came to you, maybe a grandchild, and said, Grace, what's one piece of wisdom you have for me after living such an interesting life? She didn't take much time at all to respond. When the time comes, be ready to go, she said. She actually echoes Joseph Campbell in his description of a hero's journey. In order to be a hero, one must be prepared for when the moment comes. That might be the point of all spirituality, he said. Donna and Lois shared the last 48-some years of their lives together in their late 70s, early 80s, so at ease and so kind to one another, creating a sense of family in a culture that is really ultimately hostile to two women calling themselves a family. For the last 7 years or so, Lois had been living with ovarian cancer, and as the disease progressed, she chose to take advantage of the aid in dying medication for when the going just got to be unbearable. She was a no-nonsense gal, vibrant, engaging, way more interested in hearing what you had to say than telling her story one more time. Sometimes it was hard to know just how much she was suffering because she carried it with such grace. Though thoroughly contemporary, knew her way around a computer, she was also steeped in old school values like letter writing and sending thank you notes. One Saturday night, she leaned over and told Donna, I think I'm going to take the medication tomorrow morning, honey. Well, Lois, if you hurt that bad, why not take it now? Why not take it tonight? I can't. I've got too many things to do. What do you have to do? I've got some bills to pay. I got a few birthday cards to send and a couple thank you notes to write. I'll help you do that. So after 80 years on planet Earth, spent her very last night sitting around the dining table with her beloved Donna, engaged in the most mundane activities. but activities that are nevertheless rooted in consideration, in kindness, in connectedness. That is an image of spiritual success in my book. The next morning, she got up, put on her best red silk pajamas, said, I guess I might as well go out in style. If there were such a thing as spiritual report cards, I give them both A+. As I would Bernadette for that unfailing curiosity and humor and acceptance, as I would for Grace for her incomparable ability to ride the wave of life. If there is such a thing as spiritual success, my hunch is that it's rooted in our capacity for compassion, for ourselves and for each other, for our lives as they are in this moment and as they are not. A willingness to come to peace with mess and powerlessness, and paradoxically, perhaps experiencing an even kind of deeper power in that. I'm a big documentary film fan, and I remember in 1995 a wonderful Oscar-nominated documentary called Troublesome Creek. It's a story of a family farm in Iowa that had been in the family for generations, over 125 years. Russell and Mary continue to work the farm, though they're much older now, having raised their kids who have all moved away. But they're facing foreclosure because of a farming crisis. So it's all hands on deck. The kids come back to Iowa. Everybody's doing what they can to save the family farm. We're given to believe it will kill Mom and Dad if they lose the farm and have to move into town. So you're kind of dying a little bit as you're watching them auction off the farm equipment and the livestock and their furniture. You see Mary caressing her Ethan Allen dining table. Oh, the Thanksgiving dinners I've served at this table. Sold. They just can't lose the farm. But they do. And to everyone's shock and amazement, they flourish. Russell is like a new man, unencumbered by all that nonstop worry and back-breaking labor. He's one of those guys that had these wild, untamed eyebrows going every which direction. You go, what's up with the eyebrows, Russell? And there he is in a barber chair, getting his eyebrows trimmed finally, looking his best. I'll never forget the last line of the film. Their daughter Jean is narrating. Success and failure, she said. Sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. Yes, it is. So be it. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is number 86 in your gray hymnal or on the screens above. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing hymn 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life.
That we
I invite us once again to perhaps close our eyes, take a few nice deep breaths together. We might even imagine that we can take hands with one another in a great circle. And as we do, we feel the energy that passes between us and connects us in the family of things. In that place, might we remember to hang on to one another, to that connection, and loosen our grip just a bit on our need to cast a verdict, to call it a success or a failure, for a thing to be one thing or the other, to write a final report card. In this place, may we all be allowed to be who we are, as we are, where we are, with grace, with compassion. So be it.